I killed them on purpose. I feel no sympathy for the deaths of those demons. The way I was portrayed is mostly a lie. There is some truth in it. But most of what I was convicted of is lies. These are the chilling words of women who have committed some of the most gruesome crimes in recent times. Their reactions in court, from stone-cold indifference to complete emotional breakdowns, are as disturbing as the acts themselves. Get ready, because we are about to show you the most shocking reactions of the most notorious female criminals. We begin in Wayne County Circuit Court, where Mitchell Blair awaits her sentence. The 35-year-old is on trial for the murder of her daughter and the murder of her son in 2015. An ordinary day in Martin Parkdale in Detroit turned into a nightmare. When bailiffs arrived to evict Michelle Blair's home, they came across a gruesome discovery. A piercing rod led them to a white freezer. What they found inside was hard to believe: the frozen bodies, 2 children wrapped in blankets. The victims were Blair's own children. 13-year-old Stoney Blair and her 9-year-old brother Stephen Blair were immediately arrested in court. She showed no remorse and openly admitted to killing her children. I killed them on purpose. I have no remorse for the death of these demons, she said without a sign of regret, and spoke of her own children. Blair claimed she killed her children after she found out that they had sexually abused her younger son, but there was no evidence to support these allegations. When Judge Dana Highway announced the verdict, she found clear words: the worst thing in this case is that the children will never experience a life without the fear of you. They will never know what kind of future they could have had. You have taken away their every chance of a happy life. With these words, the judge announced the verdict: you have imposed the death penalty on your own children. You accept this responsibility, therefore you will remain in prison for the rest of your life, without the possibility of parole. While the verdict was being passed, showed Blair no reaction, no sign of remorse, no emotion. Mitchell Blair will remain in prison for the rest of her life. But if you were shocked by Blair's ice-cold reaction, then hold on tight, because the next cases will be even more disturbing. Imagine you are in the courtroom. Taylor Schaubs sits tensely on her chair. The tension in the room is palpable just as the judge postpones the hearing. The unexpected happens, but let's take a step back. In February 2022, something happened in Green Bay, Wisconsin that reads like something out of a horror novel. The 25-year-old Taylor Schaubs and her 24-year-old boyfriend Sh Tyron spent the night together, but what followed was anything but ordinary. Under the influence of vitamin, Taylor suffocated her boyfriend with a chain in the basement of Darling Mother. But the horror did not end there. According to the authorities, Taylor abused Shed's lifeless body after his death and then began to dismember him. In panic and full of shock, she finally called the police. The charges of intentional first-degree murder, desecration of a corpse, and sexual third-degree abuse. At a hearing to determine her competency, she sat before Judge Thomas Welch, while her attorney Quinn Jolly represented her. An expert for the defense was due to testify soon, but Jolly explained that the doctor needed more time to complete his report. The judge granted the 2-week extension. What happened next froze the entire courtroom. In a moment of uncontrollable rage, Schaubs jumped up from her chair and threw herself at her own attorney. Bailiffs reacted immediately and managed to overpower her and lead her out of the courtroom. The attack had no consequences for Jolly, but he immediately requested to withdraw from the case as attorney, a request which the judge granted. A new defense attorney was assigned to her. Taylor Schaubs was later sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, but that was only the beginning. The next story gets even more shocking. Next, we take a look at a woman who conspired with her shooting instructor to kill her ex-husband in a courtroom in California. Diana Lovejoy appeared before the judge to hear the verdict on her. The prosecution conspiracy to murder and attempted murder of her ex-husband Greg Mav Hill. Diana Lovejoy and Greg Mav Hill initially seemed to have a happy future ahead of them, but 8 miscarriages left them devastated. Despite the joy of the birth of their son, their marriage broke up. Tensions increased after a bitter divorce and custody battle. A judge ruled that Diana had to pay Greg $120,000 and share custody. Angry at the verdict, Diana hatched a sinister plan with her shooting instructor Weldon McDivey Jr. Greg was lured into an ambush and shot during a stage call from a supposed private investigator, but he survived. The botched assassination led to an intensive investigation that finally exonerated Diana as the mastermind. During The verdict in the San Diego courtroom. The jury read the verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant Diana Lovejoy guilty. Within seconds, Diana Lovejoy collapsed, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to murder. The presiding judge, Sim von Kalinowski, cleared the courtroom so Lovejoy could receive medical attention. She lost consciousness and was taken to the hospital. Her sentence was 26 years to life. Today, Diana Lovejoy is serving her sentence in prison, while Diana collapsed when her sentence was announced. Another woman, Crystal Candelario, showed no emotion as the judge told her the verdict in the courtroom of Cuyahoga County. Compede 31-year-old Crystal Candelario stood before Judge Brennan J. Sean to hear her verdict. The charges of aggravated murder and child endangerment. In the summer of 2022, Crystal left her 16-month-old daughter Jan in a playpen with only a few bottles of milk while she went on a 10-day vacation. Crystal spent the days with a male companion in Puerto Rico, enjoying the beaches, and then making a stopover in Detroit. In the courtroom, the prosecutors presented incriminating evidence, including footage from a neighborhood door camera that documented Jan's heartbreaking screams at 1:04 a.m. You can hear the little girl's desperate cries if you listen carefully. Let's play the recordings again. When Crystal Candelario finally returned home, she found her daughter lifeless, without food, without water, without her mother's care. In a panic, she called 911, but it was too late. Crystal was immediately arrested and charged with murder. During the verdict, the prosecution and police laid out the horrific details of the case and painted a picture of a mother who had betrayed her most sacred duty. The baby loved its mother, it needed her, and she betrayed it. Crystal was given the opportunity to speak in court. Through an interpreter, she showed remorse and asked for forgiveness from the society that had shocked her. She also sought forgiveness from her deceased daughter. I am deeply hurt by everything that has happened. I don't want to justify my actions, but no one knew how much I had suffered and what I had been through. Before the judge pronounced the final verdict, he addressed a few serious words to the defendant. The bond between a mother and a child is one of the purest and most sacred bonds that exist between people, but in a shocking betrayal of this basic trust, they have committed the ultimate act of betrayal. Then his sentence will be passed. You will spend the rest of your life in a cell without freedom. The only difference will be that prison will at least give you food. Crystal Candelario is currently serving her life sentence without any possibility of remission. What do you say about the actions of these women? Are the judge's sentences appropriate? Write it in the comments.